right. Hello, you fucks. Welcome to John Solo's Beer Brigade. I'm John Solo, and we are back for yet another installment of Andrew Gray Writes a Book a Month. How the hell are you, Andrew? I love you, man. Shit. Man, I'm so sorry I missed the last week. I've been kind of under the weather the last couple of weeks. The crowd knows and all that, but I'm so sorry. I was asleep. I woke up to missed calls from you, messages from people, so I'm sorry, guys. I missed this release. But we're going to do it today. We'll get it done. And apparently, don't you have another? You should have another one coming out like next week then, too, right?
July 13th, I think.
That's not very far away, so we'll get that one in
Or
too.
no, yeah, I think it's July 13th.
Nice.
Yes,
Also,
we have firemen on July 13th.
oh, are you gonna wear your fireman shirt? You got to wear the fireman shirt for the.
Yeah, I'll wear the fireman shirt, but we got hot firemen in nothing but fire pants. Ooh.
That's exactly what we need. We were talking off the air, and I think it's an interesting subject because you had mentioned that somebody's catalog, Queen's catalog, just got sold for $1.4 billion. So we were trying to find one that maybe, like an everyday person like me or Andrew Gray could afford. We checked out the Village People, and we can't afford that. We need somebody that had like one hit where we can buy their catalog, and then we can relicense it. Every time we do these, we can play them before. That's what we need right there. So if anybody has a suggestion for somebody that's just had one hit and they actually like the song, put it down in the comments. We'll find the price for it and see if me and Andrew, we've discussed it. We have $35 between us. So that's a good amount of money. Oh shit! By the way, people are complimenting you on your looks, which is just not even yeah. I mean, he's a good-looking man. All right, we have him on every fucking month. So tell me about this book, Hero in Waiting. I guess I could read the blurb. I could do that.
You could read the blurb.
Why don't I do
and
that?
Then you would go. Oh, and you are reading. I am reading Giselle and Miller, and you are reading everybody else.
Gotcha. So this is where I discover what I'm going to read here in the next 20 minutes, by the way. All right. Yep. Hero in Waiting by our very own Andrew Gray. Wells Barnaby is in danger and he doesn't even know it. After leaving the Marines, he came to live with his sister and is helping to care for his niece. When a threat from his past rears up, it puts them all in danger and brings the one who got away back into his life. Miller Washington served with Wells, and the two men shared an attraction that neither of them acknowledged. When Miller learns that an old enemy is on the loose and that he may come after Wells, he makes a beeline to help. But he doesn't expect repressed desire to blaze back to life. Between renewed attraction and an enemy who will stop at nothing to get even, Wells and Miller must navigate the heat of passion too strong for either of them to contain, while not letting their guard down, in order to protect Wells's family and their second chance. There's the blurb. Somebody just said your beard is better than mine. Well, fuck you, all right? It's not my fault that I shaved a little bit of it. I trimmed it. It's coming back, all right? I put chia stuff on my face.
My beard is better than yours?
That's what they're saying in the crowd, and I don't much appreciate it. So look at that.
Now, guys, I think John looks amazing. We all have to compliment him, because before his beard arrived one time zone before he did.
I mean, I can't help it. It's not the size that counts, but yes, I mean it certainly it was protruding. I had to make up for something, Andrew. You got to give me. Yeah, but what? I don't think that there's ever been. I mean, Andrew Gray would never have a beard. I mean, it's just. I mean, now we're talking not the facial hair. Anyways, I'm going to get into this now. I got to note. This kind of disturbed me today, Andrew. For Dominic, who is always my hero. I read that actually before we even went on the air today, and I realized that you dedicated this to your husband, which is awesome. That's fine. But what about your fans? I mean, why don't you dedicate one to your fans sometime,
Oh, jeez, Pete. Quit it. And by the way, guys, Dominic is having surgery tomorrow.
Oh, shit. Is everything all
right? He's been having a lot of back and nerve pain since before Christmas, so they're going in to fix a bulging disc tomorrow.
My goodness gracious. Well, we wish him a speedy recovery and all that good stuff. Is there a P.O. box, perchance, that people can send sweets to? That's what they do for me. They're always in the shape of cocks, though. It's the weirdest thing. So I am going to be playing the part of Wells and everybody else. And you got Miller, and you got all those
I've
Miller
got
and
Miller
somebody
and
else.
Giselle, and you got everybody
I
else.
get the feeling Giselle. I get the feeling that Giselle is not an adult. That's what I get the feeling.
Giselle
Is
is
that?
5.
Gotcha. Well, I figured it out then. Here we
That's why she's mine.
go. That's chapter 1. Wellington Wells Barnaby held the hand of of his 5-year-old niece as they walked through the park, which was her favorite thing in the entire world, it seemed. "Don't run across the road," he called as she dropped his hand and raced forward, stopping right at the edge of the concrete, watching the ducks on the other side. "Do you want to go on the swings?" Anything to distract her from the duck and goose poop strewn area over there. Not that he cared about a little poop. He'd experienced a hell of a lot worse. Hell, he'd probably slept in worse.
Yes.
Man, I mean, you can't pay for that kind of fucking delivery. You know, you can't. Like, you can't hire somebody like me to do. We got to bring in a ringer for this shit. She replied loudly, racing back over to him. Once again, Wells held out his hand, and as she took it, as they walked across the grass to the huge play area with its wooden ship-like structure filled with the happiness and laughter of excited children, Wells took a deep breath and did his best to let the sounds sink in deeper, but he was on edge. He looked all around for the dozenth time since bringing Giselle here. He had long ago learned to trust his instincts, but now he was starting to think being a daycare duty for his niece was beginning to get to him.
Uncle Wells, push me on the swing.
She climbed on, and he did as she asked.
Higher.
You can't go too high, you know that. If his sister Christine saw them, she'd already be having a fit. Christine was a good, if overly worried parent.
But I want to try to touch the sky.
She countered, extending her legs the way Wells had been teaching her so she could swing on her own. He pushed her a little higher and let her swing. You can do it on your own. Remember what I told you. Wells sat on the next swing, his feet on the ground, looking over all the people on the playground. His mind ran through threat assessments almost automatically. So many times, he'd wished that he could turn that shit off, and that a visit to the playground could be just that. But no, he was constantly thinking what he would do if one of the parents pulled a gun, or if someone left a backpack where it shouldn't be and walked away.
Uncle Wells.
Giselle said, and he turned, realizing she had stopped. She slipped off the swing, ran toward the play area, and instantly found some other kids, and ran off, joining the din of happiness that seemed to permeate the place. Wells was back home, and he needed to get used to it. After more than 2 decades in the Marines, and years of being one of the first deployed to hotspots around the world, he was used to being on his guard all the time. But now in Carlisle, a town in the Harrisburg, PA area, he needed to get used to a very different kind of life, whether he wanted it or not. He sat on a bench, letting Giselle play for a while before going to get her. "We need to go home so you can have lunch," Wells told her. All the kids around looked at him, and some backed away before turning to run to their parents. He held out his hand, and she took it, letting him lead her out and down to the entrance.
I want to see the ducks, okay? Then we can go.
This girl was going to be a lawyer. Wells could already see it. She tried to negotiate everything. 5 minutes, Wells told her as they walked across the lawn toward where he'd parked Christine's mommy mobile. Yeah, all right, cool. It still made him smile that he was driving a minivan, but that was fine. It sure as hell beat a Humvee through the desert, getting sand in the crack of his ass.
Uncle Wells, why is that mean man watching you?
Giselle asked. What? Wells asked, and then he saw him too. The scowl, the intense eyes, the wide-as-a-house shoulders, that infuriating swagger.
Right over there.
She pointed and stepped away, standing partly behind his legs. Damn, Giselle was usually fearless. It's okay. I know him, Wells said, lifting her into his arms as the man drew closer. What is it with you? Taking up scaring children, is that your new hobby? He tried to look gruff, but then broke into a smile. What are you doing here? He asked, setting Giselle down before getting a hug almost tight enough to crush her rib. He shrugged and smiled, easing away some of the roughness.
Uncle Wells.
Giselle pleaded, still afraid. Wells backed away and lifted her again. Jelly, this is Miller, one of the men I know from the Marines. He leaned closer. I know he looks scary, but he's a pretty nice man when he wants to be. Now, over the years, Wells had seen Miller in many stages of undress, and the truth was, that he was fine as hell in all of them, as far as Wells was concerned. Not that Wells had ever done anything about it. Judging by the girls Miller chatted up everywhere they went, he had no interest in other men.
So he's not mean?
She asked. Wells didn't know how to answer that. He won't be mean to you, I promise. Miller Washington was one of the fiercest warriors that Wells had ever known. Well, that was a horrible way to read that sentence. I'll do it again. Miller Washington was one of the fiercest. I don't know why I can't say fiercest today, so we're just going to skip over that word. Miller Washington was one of the fiercest warriors. See? 3 times. I'm a fucking pro, all right? He was a fierce warrior that Wells had ever known. He was pretty badass. I guess I'll just start that right there. Once, when they were in a fight in the desert with the enemy trying to sneak in, one man managed to get to their gun emplacement. He was so close, Wells had already pulled his sidearm. But Miller manhandled the man into the gun cartridge, or carriage, knocked his head in, tossed the broken body over the wall of sandbags, and then got right back into position. Back then, Wells hadn't known whether to admire the guy or be scared as hell. Eventually, admiration won out. Miller did what he had to in order to keep everyone safe, but the rest of the time, he was generally fun to be around and kept a level head. What brings you here? And how did you find me? Miller smiled, and that sent Wells's heart racing for a moment.
I
He stammered.
I was hoping that you and I could talk.
He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small bag of corn.
Let's go feed the ducks.
Giselle was all excited and took the bag when Miller offered it to her. The man always seemed prepared. Then Wells held her hand as they crossed the empty road. She started throwing the feed almost instantly, ducks and geese gathering around for their share of the banquet.
I've been traveling a lot, trying to get a sense of stuff. I stopped by the house and the neighbor said you might be at the park.
Well, I'm glad you found me. I did a little traveling myself, but Christine needed some help. So during the week, I'm on daycare duty. Not that I mind, really. He looked at where Jelly was chasing ducks. You leave her alone. She chased away a
Well,
group of mallards. Oh, that was her. Sorry. You do
that's
it.
okay. You leave her alone.
That's so much better. She chased away a group of mallards trying to get to a female duck. I think this is... I don't even... All right. So I guess this is me.
That's me.
Oh, it's you? All right. Well,
It's me.
good luck.
It's a ducky gangbang.
For a second, I thought we were doing those freaking... what are those Mad Libs we used to do? Thought that's what it was. I was like, fuck, Trace already
Oh,
got
come
into
on.
this. It's so good
I was
looking.
walking through the park today. There were a bunch of ducks, 3 or 4 mallards after one female. It was like, geez, oh Pete, it's a ducky gangbang.
If I was a duck, you know what my what my pickup line would be though, because it'd be so easy. Hey, I'm a duck. Want to fuck?
Okay.
That'd be my pickup line.
Oh.
Anyways, you go right ahead. It's
And
a
your
ducky.
line would die out with you.
The fact is, 1 in 50 times it'd work, and that's enough for me, Andrew.
It's a ducky gangbang.
Miller said softly. They both laughed as Jelly hurried back with the empty bag.
Can we go home now?
She asked, and once again, Wells took her hand.
Are you Uncle Wells's friend?
She asked.
I am.
Miller said. Then
Then
you
you
can...
can come too.
Oh, sorry. That's still her. There were times when she was a little princess.
Mommy says I'm not supposed to talk to strangers, but you're not a stranger because Uncle Wells knows you.
She let go of his hand, skipping along up the path, playing just ahead of them. What's going on? Wells asked. I know you didn't come all this way for just a social call. Miller's expression grew serious.
No, I didn't. Though don't think for a second that it isn't good to see you, but I received word that Roth Salman has gotten himself released.
Wells felt a cold shiver run up his spine. He was supposed to be in custody for the rest of his life for what he did to that village and all those people.
Yes, he was, but he made some sort of detail and provided information that was needed, so they let him loose. They even provided the asshole with a house in Cincinnati, which is all well and good, except he stayed there a month and then disappeared.
That's because Cincinnati sucks. Miller swallowed, and Wells watched his throat work, wondering what the spot at the base of it would taste like.
You know what he swore.
Wells nodded. He'd heard that threat in his dreams every night for a year. Sometimes it still returned. You have got to be kidding me. Jelly? He held out his hand, waiting for her to come over. She took it, and then he lifted her into his arms because he needed to hold her and know she would be safe. Oh, this is you.
Oh, I don't know what he's going to do, and if he was smart, he'd stay the hell away. But after I heard,
He sighed.
I figured you needed to know and that maybe you could use some help.
Wells had plenty to lose now. So, you decided to come visit. He kept his tone light because Jelly was right there. He didn't want her to have any idea about what was going on, or make her worried or scared, even though the more Wells thought about it, the more he feared for his family. How about we go back to the house and have some ice cream? Wells knew that would occupy his niece, and he led the way to the van and drove them back to his sister's house. Jelly's father was out of the picture, and good riddance to him. He had tried to make trouble for them, but Wells put a stop to it. The guy was such a bullying coward. All it took was a visit, dressed all in black, and Dewey had nearly wet himself.
What does your sister do?
Miller asked at the front door of the large Georgian revival home.
This is some place. Mommy is a doctor. She helps people deliver babies.
Jelly answered before Wells could. She hurried inside as soon as he had the door open, and Wells led the way through the magnificently restored entrance hall to the kitchen and back. Has anyone been able to track Salmon? Is that how you say that, you think?
That's okay.
Has anyone been able to track Salmon anywhere? Wells asked, setting about making coffee and getting Jelly some of the lactose-free ice cream Christine always kept in the freezer for her. He called Jelly and got her at the table with her snack.
The last I heard, he was located in northern Ohio. That was some days ago. But no one seems to know where he went after that. There's speculation he crossed into Canada, but God knows.
He leaned close enough that Wells got a whiff of his clean, masculine scent, and it damn near made his head spin. Why in the hell did he have to be drawn so strongly to this man? The guy was straight, and Wells had zero chance, yet all Miller had to do was get within 5 feet of him, and his heart beat in his chest like a damned drum corps. I thought you got out of the service, Wells asked. Miller knew a hell of a lot for someone who thought who had retired a few months after he had. Miller locked gazes with Wells. Electricity zapped between them, and Wells was a second from closing his eyes and licking his lips when Miller cleared his throat.
I'm doing private security, of a sort right now. After the service, I went into civilian life with no particular direction. After a month, I got a call from an old contact. They needed a job done, someone protected, and it couldn't be through official channels. I stayed under the radar, got the client where he was supposed to be, and all the bad guys went to one of the tightest prisons in the country where they belong.
I see. So, am I a client? He didn't know how that was possible.
No,
Miller said sharply.
I was only explaining that I have sources of information, and they're concerned about that Salman has dropped off the radar. I saw you on a list of people who might be of interest to him.
Miller paused.
I'm I'm on that list as well.
So bringing two of his targets together... Miller leaned forward.
I came because I thought you might be in danger. And you know that 5-year-olds only mean leverage to this man. He won't hesitate to use your sister or your niece to his advantage. And I figured you would be would be going into this blind. So here I am. But I can leave if that's what you want.
Wells shook his head. No. He just wasn't used to anyone doing shit for him without wanting something in return. Not that he minded helping Christine out with Jelly. When he'd gotten out, Wells had bummed around for a while, but he didn't have any sort of direction. He'd called Christine because he needed something in his life other than traveling from coast to coast, sleeping in his damned truck while he searched for the meaning of life or some shit. She had offered him a room in the house if he would help out with Jelly while she was at work. He knew he needed to find a more permanent job of some kind, but he still felt untethered.
Hey, you know it's okay to be at loose ends.
Miller said, like he could read his mind.
I know that look. You're used to being in action, and sitting around like this is driving you stir crazy. I've been there.
So what do I do? Wells asked as Jelly suddenly got up and hurried from the room. Miller drew close, those brown eyes as intense as the sea of New York before a storm.
You get yourself up and you do it. You make a decision and then go forward. If it's the wrong one, adjust and go ahead.
Jelly hurried into the room and right up to Wells.
Will you read to me?
After your ice cream, he told her gently, taking the book and setting it on the counter. Then he lifted her back into her seat to finish. Don't make a mess,
I won't.
she said, but Wells knew better. I know you're right, he agreed with a sigh, and maybe once a certain somebody gets Sleepy, we can take a look around.
Good idea.
Miller said. Wells poured them both some coffee, and they sat together until Jelly was done. Wells cleaned her up, read to her, and then got her in the living room to play for a while before returning to Miller. What's the plan? I can't tell Christine not to go to work, and I can't lock Jelly in the house or something. After all, this potential threat was because of him.
We need to make your sister aware of the threat and caution her to be careful. She shouldn't spend a lot of time alone. There should be people around. As for the house, we can secure it and add some cameras and other features to alert us if anyone is snooping around. And we can make a strong show of force. Let Salmon know that we're prepared for him. You remember the man is basically a skulking coward. He scoped out the market for a long time and called off his attack 3 times before he thought he might have been spotted.
Okay. My first priority is keeping Christine and Jelly safe. That was all that mattered.
And we will.
Miller smiled again and then sipped his coffee.
Security is what I do.
He finished his mug and set it in the sink.
If you don't mind, I'm going to go check out the garage and the rest of the property. I want to see what we're working with.
Miller went out the back door. I bet he did. And Wells checked on Jelly just as she was putting a crayon up her nose.
It itched.
She told him, and Wells wondered when his life became itchy noses that we're doing the Mad Libs thing, that only crayons could reach. He loved Jelly so much, but Miller was right. He needed to get off his butt and get on with his life.
Is Mr. Miller still here?
Yes, he's outside, in the backyard, Wells said.
Good, because he still looks mean.
Wells lifted her onto his lap. You know what? Not everything is how it looks, like ice cream. They can be white and still taste like mint, vanilla, or coconut. It's what's on the inside that counts. And Miller is a good man. He hugged her. Let me tell you this. Miller saved my life once.
Was that when you were in the war?
She asked, her eyes wide.
Mommy told me you used to be a soldier. Did you shoot people?
I didn't shoot at anyone who wasn't shooting at me first. I promise you. And yes, Miller helped me while we were in a war. And he got me out after I got shot in the leg. She watched him.
Does it still hurt?
Sometimes. Especially in the winter when it was cold. His leg could ache something awful.
When I hurt, Mommy kisses it to make it better.
Jelly told him. Wells was pretty sure he didn't want his sister kissing his leg, but he smiled and hugged her. Then she climbed down and went back to playing. The back door opened and closed, and Miller joined him.
We got quite a bit of work to do. The garage needs to be buttoned up much tighter, and the lock on the back gate can be jimmied by a good wind.
Then, as soon as Christine gets home, we should get on it. At least he could get up off his butt, and he and Miller would do it together, just like old times. That would be Chapter 1. Hero in Waiting, Andrew Gray. Good job, dude. That was actually kind of fun. And I think this was out last week, right?
Yeah, that was out last week, so it's out and available and ready for your reading pleasure.
I just found out one of the people in the crowd. I'm going to totally mess up your name. Margarita House lives in Cincinnati. She said, "Give us a break." You should know better than anyone, Margarita House. Cincinnati sucks. Anyways, hey, thank you guys so much for.
I just picked Cincinnati because it was a place that he disappeared from.
I just give it.
And
shit.
I've been to Cincinnati, and besides, I used to watch WKRP, so think of it that way.
Wow.
I'm showing my age.
I think their best export is Jerry Springer, and you know what happened to him? He's dead. But anyways,
Although I have had Cincinnati chili. I think I had a 4-way and a 5-way once.
that was not food that you were talking about right there, Andrew.
Nope. Cincinnati Chili's has 3-way, 4-ways, and 5-ways.
And now
Your
we know what
Cincinnati
these.
lady will know what it is.
Yeah, my wife won't even let me have one of the 2 ways. She's Anyways, I love you guys so much. Thank you for hanging out. We're gonna pop this up on YouTube, and Andrew, I'll send you a link tonight. You're coming back sometime in July. Can you remind us of that date in that book again?
I think it's July 13th, Tuesday, whatever that Tuesday is.
Excellent. Love you guys. We will see you all next.